Welcome to the After the Show movie podcast, brought to you by your hosts Ascully and Cidtalk. We're addicted to movies. Are you? Hello there, Cidtalk. How you doing? Hello.
Oh, hello. I forgot you were going to start talking to me.
Well, yes.
It's only been about 30 seconds since you said we were starting.
I'm talking to you, Cidtalk.
That was the before the after the show discussion, you talking and me not fully listening. But I'm here now. I'm good. I'm present.
What did I say before the show?
Before the after the show discussion was...
You weren't listening.
This movie, a little bit about Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
And then...
You said that you liked this movie today.
I did.
I mean, you like the act of movie day, you said.
Yes.
Why is
well, recently, if you haven't been listening, my mother passed away just a couple of weeks ago, actually. And so movie day is kind of like a normal thing, and it's fun, and it's like celebratory, you know, and it's not easy to be celebratory when you're sad.
No.
But then you have to like balance it all out, and being sad every second of the day doesn't solve a problem. And that's how my brain works. And y'all, whoever wants to have feelings hurt, because I think of it that way. But the problem to solve is for me to work through, you know, the death of my mother. And that problem can't be solved by me just
I was going to say,
laying on the couch.
My mother died,
Yeah.
40 years ago, maybe?
Yeah,
No?
when you were little.
I still haven't got over it.
Well, I don't think there's getting over it. It's more like finding there's a place for it, right?
Yes.
There is a place. I mean, it'll be very, very prominent for a long time for me, but there's a place for like also everything else.
And if you were an actor, it would be a thing you would draw upon.
It would.
To bring out a performance.
It would, but I'm not good at faking things. This is why I have to analyze it very carefully and be like, instead of me being like, fuck movie day, I don't want to do movies, I'm sad, I have to be like, you know what? Movie day sounds like it might be good. Get the blanket, get some popcorn, take a breath, have some fun, let Kevin Smith entertain me yet again, as he has through most of my last many adult years. So, you know, It's all good, actually. So that is, you're right. This made me feel better.
Very good. Cidtalk. It's Saturday, November the 16th.
It is.
This is After the Show, your weekly movie review podcast. And on episode 865, we're looking at the movie, The 4:30 Movie. It's a 2024 release, out now on Blu-ray. And how do I know that? I've got the Blu-ray right in front of me.
An actual disc.
Yes. You know, this one's old school, Cidtalk.
Yeah.
Not only does it come with the Blu-ray disc, it comes with a DVD.
Oh, my.
I don't know if that's in being... I mean, it should come with a VHS tape if you wanted to be real super retro, right? It's out now. It's rated R. Its runtime is 1 hour and 27 minutes. It's pretty short. And it's from our friends at Lionsgate, who sent us a copy for review. Cidtalk, what's the synopsis of Kevin Smith's The 4:30 Movie?
Well, we're going to just give it a generic sweep of saying it's a coming-of-age story about a young teenage man who wants to go out with the girl and the day that's leading up to their date. Is that fair?
Yeah, here's the one off the box. A group of teens in the 1980s spend their day theater hopping.
Now, I have a hard time with the teen part because I don't know that all of these young people are teens. Are they? I didn't glean that from the extras.
I mean...
I don't know their actual ages, but I don't feel like they're the age of a junior in high school. I could be wrong. I need to investigate before I judge, but they felt older to me.
1995, the main guy was born.
1995 is not a teenager.
No, that is not.
No.
And, the girl...
1995?
Yes.
That's 30 years old.
And the lady...
That can't be right.
The main girl... No, that was right. She doesn't have her. Oh, yeah, she does. She was from 2004.
So she's 20.
Let me look at this guy again, because I might have been lying to you.
I don't think that could be right.
No, he was born in 1995, August the 12th, 1995.
So he's supposed to be a junior approaching senior high school, which is 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. But if he was born in 95, my goodness.
But the girl is more appropriate aged.
Sure, no, because she's supposed to be a sophomore, which is 16.
Oh, God. It's all wrong.
But we have to just let it go. I was actually thinking it during the movie, but I'll just let it go. It's from the 80s. I'm sure a lot of those people we saw in 80s movies were also not teenagers. So
no, what the hell?
we just accepted it because we were dumb.
Yes. All right. So Kevin Smith's The 4:30 movie. What did you think, Cidtalk?
I really loved it. I really had a good time. And it's not because it's not overly stuffed with 80s stuff. It's just not. It's got the hints and the nods, and it's just is. It's not like Stranger Things where it's sort of like in your face. You know what I mean? Like it's bold 80s kind of thing.
Yes, I know what you mean.
This is more like it just is the 80s, and you feel like it's folded into the story only because that's when it happened. It's not like pushing the 80s agenda, whatever that is.
It's loosely based on the story of Kevin Smith.
Correct. Of him getting his first, a young girl, teenage girl to go on a date with him, and also his budding interest in becoming a filmmaker just a little bit. And so I just let it happen. And I told you that I'm not always in the mood for things. So I was thinking like, am I really in the mood for an overly goofy, very sappy Kevin Smith movie? But it didn't. So I was expecting that, and I was very happily surprised.
The last one we watched, it was Clerks 3, which I actually kind of like Clerks 3. I know people didn't really like it. I think they didn't like it because of what he did to one of the characters.
Oh, sure.
I was down with that.
I was totally down with it. Yep.
It's like putting a cap on the end of something.
Absolutely.
Like but I thought that was funny, sad. It was sadder than this one for me. Clerks 3. I think, you know why? Because you've established.
Well, this one's not sad at all.
This has it isn't sad at all, is it? But it has what does it have?
Maybe for you, the thought of youth going away.
No,
kind of like Toy Story 3.
I don't care about that so much. But there's something about there's like a love. What it's all based on is like love of film, cinema, and
friendship.
Yeah. So there's something about that makes you feel emotional. I guess the emotional scene of this was when they were having a fight.
Yes, the friends.
Yeah. So there is an emotional side to this, but it is pretty upbeat.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I liked it. I really like Kevin Smith's work. I have since the very beginning. I introduced you to it.
Yeah. If people don't know, one of the litmus tests for us, because I met you on the old-timey internet back in 1998. Where we could hardly chat because the phone was involved. You couldn't use your telephone if you were on the internet. And so we would chat for brief moments, then it would go away. And one of the things was you sent me a list of movies that I needed to see. And on that list was every Kevin Smith movie up to that date.
Right.
And so I hadn't seen them. Also on that was California with a K.
That was because David Duchovny.
Yes, you love David Duchovny, and we both loved the X-Files at the time, so we both, that was one of our bonding things. I cannot remember the whole list, but I do remember Kevin Smith, definitely. Yes. And once I watched them, I was on board, so.
Yeah, and he's entertained us throughout the years. He's a steady thing, isn't he? He makes a movie every few years.
We worried about him there for a while, like, where's this going? What's he doing? What's the vibe?
There's one movie we've never seen.
Hosiers.
Of his. Yoga Hosiers.
Yoga Hosers.
And we've not seen the horror movie that he made, Kilroy Wazir.
Okay, we saw Red State.
Yeah, which I quite like, Red State.
Yeah.
So there's two movies we haven't seen of his, but we are pretty familiar with his stuff. We've listened to hours and hours and hours of podcasts.
And this is a mature version, I believe, of a Kevin Smith storytelling experience. He does seem
different, doesn't he?
Yep.
We watched the extras on this disc. And it's like the making of, and Kevin's talking about it. And what I noticed in him talking about it is he wasn't being goofy at all.
Not at all.
He was very serious. And then when it showed you him directing as well, like behind the scenes photos, he looked very serious. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not goofing off. I'm making a film here, which is different to how he used to be. Is it for the better? Is it for the worse?
Oh, I think this was really good, really finely tuned. I mean, I enjoyed the emotion. I enjoyed the fun. It looked gorgeous most of the time. I mean, a lot of times it's functional. Yes. He's not like a fancy film guy. He's like a cinema guy who likes to tell a story. I mean, that's the way I always think of his movies. And he adds his own personality.
Yeah.
And I feel like this time he just exceeded.
He's a very unique filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
He literally has his own thing that other people don't seem to do that, do they? They don't seem to have their own thing.
It doesn't seem like it.
Like a lot of filmmakers flit around. I would say Quentin Tarantino even. He has his thing, that really sharp dialogue that he writes. But he also flits around different genres and messing around. Kevin Smith sticks to what he knows, I think.
Well, no, he's done the horror. He's done the Red State, which was also
he has,
horror.
But they all have his flavor.
True.
He doesn't completely turn it 360 degrees. Even if it's a horror, there'll be goofiness to it, like Tusk, for instance.
Oh, Tusk is, yeah.
Yeah. But he does stick to his own thing, unique. And he always has something from his heart that I always feel to say.
Definitely.
Like he's really
100%.
He's very smushy.
Yes.
And what I really liked about this movie was it showed his love of cinema. If you don't know, Kevin Smith, in his later years here, has actually bought the town that he lived in as a kid. He bought the theater there, the cinema, and he's made it into a cinema. Like his own cinema that doesn't just show Kevin Smith movies, it shows any movie. You know, you can go there and watch a movie. And this film takes place inside that cinema. So that's how he made it a bit on the cheap, because he already owned the place. And the love of cinema and theatre and movies really comes through, I think.
Absolutely.
And my favourite thing about the whole movie is there are 3 fake movie trailers in the middle.
Oh, yes. Yes, they're so good.
Yeah, and it's like if you've ever watched the Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez Grindhouse, in the middle of the movie, they had some fake trailers that were just like goofy, but like horror movies and stuff. Kevin Smith did that here, and all 3 of them were hilarious.
You said, I want to see those movies.
I really want to see the Nun movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Nun, what was her name? Sister Sugar.
She was a nun by day and a lady of the night by night.
And apparently a murderer as well.
And also a murderer, yeah. They show these trailers, and that was my favorite part of the movie. I was like, those trailers, you know, it brings something back. When you were in the theater when you were younger and you sit down, the trailers were as much for me a part of the experience as the movie.
Yeah, and I realize I am not that big of a fan of trailers anymore because I've kind of gotten to this stage of my movie loving where, like you even, in our before the after the show discussion, you said, now I've got another movie we're going to watch tomorrow just for fun. And and before I even said it, you're like, I'm not telling you what it is because you just like to just watch. And so I've matured past the trailers, you see.
Yeah.
I like to just see it. And even not knowing at all what it is, just start the movie rolling and then I have no clue what's happening. And I actually really enjoy that.
Well, tomorrow, expect that.
I will.
We'll do that. I felt the love of movies. If I had anything bad to say about this movie is some of Kevin's juvenile humor I don't gel with.
Okay.
It's a bit...
You mean about masturbation?
It's like too dumb.
It is a bit dumb.
Yeah, some of his dialogue is super dumb and you're like, oh, you know, like with the wrestling guy in this movie and
Yes.
There's certain parts where I'm like, I don't even think this movie needs that to be good.
I agree.
And it doesn't need a dude jerking off in a bathroom. Because it's not even funny. Is it? It also felt a bit out of place, that jerking off in the bathroom part.
That was a bit, but out of place, but also not.
Right.
Because I understand.
So there is like dumb stuff where you kind of like go, oh, really? Are we going there? Is that? But then there's other stuff where you're like, oh, that's really heartfelt, or
yes,
I really understand that character. So it's a mixture. I just wish it like pared back that. I know that's his trademark.
Well, I think it was very pared back.
It was definitely pared back.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed was there's a lack of cursing in this movie.
Yeah, totally.
These kids don't swear all the time like a lot of his characters do. And I'd noticed that, and I was like, oh.
And they don't do long little monologues and all that, which is also kind of a staple, which I appreciated.
Yeah, because sometimes when that happens in Kevin Smith movies, you're like, here we go. And then, blah, 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 blah. You know, somebody starts diatribing or whatever you call it.
I don't mind it, but if it's heavy as in it outweighs other scenes or part of the story.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just telling me that this character is a knobhead because they stand here and talk blah, blah, blah about whatever, that's not really interesting to me. So I was glad that we just got, I mean, her little thing to the manager guy when she's giving him shit. I love that. That was perfect.
The manager character was like too over the top for me. I don't know if that's based on something real.
I didn't mind him at all. And I know what you're saying, but he didn't bother me.
Well, it didn't bother me, but it bothered me in the way of I wasn't really laughing at it.
Right.
Like I was like, this is just like ridiculous.
But I felt like he was necessary. Right. I didn't mind, so I was good with him.
One thing I did think of when I was watching that guy was when he keeps telling everybody, I'm always on the phone to movie studios. Yeah. Well, he's just on the phone to movie studios ordering movies to play in his theater.
Yeah, he's a manager of a little movie theater.
That's literally what he's doing. Yeah,
he's some schmucko at Paramount is saying, do you want a reel or not? Like, not like movie people.
No. Yeah, there's a lot of goofy antics, as I call it. But then there's also a lot of heart. So that kind of cancelled it out for me. I know those trailers that I just said are my favorite part of the movie. Those are goofy, but they're the right kind of goofy.
Right.
Including that stupid movie that was on. The movie with the beavers.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't a trailer. That was the actual movie that was playing. It was like Flash Gordon, but it was, fuck knows what it was. It was crazy.
Well, are you saying that Flash Gordon isn't crazy?
Flash Gordon is an actual masterpiece, please.
So I'm going to have to not appreciate your opinion on this subject because you are your view is askew. Get it?
Yeah, yes.
View askew.
I see what you did.
You Kevin Smith fans know what I'm saying.
So, yeah, let's get on to the cast. Sienna Agadong plays Melody. She's
amazing.
The girl. Huh?
Amazing.
Yeah, she was really good.
Really good.
Again, though, she's only in the beginning and the end.
Doesn't matter though, because the weight of her character, she's the girl that he asks out.
Yes.
So a year ago they kind of flirted around and he got nervous and backed off, and now he's asking her out. So we see that little incident, we see him talking to her, and then he's just talking about her, and then of course she comes in the very not just like a minute. I mean, she's a big part of it. So I feel like she was exactly right. I liked her a lot.
Our main guy who plays Brian was Austin Zajur. Now, I thought he was my favorite thing in the movie.
It was really good.
Most of the time, I was like, is he really playing... Is this just Kevin Smith who he's playing? Because when he started telling the story at the beginning about... Well, not a story. She said, why do you wear your T-shirt in the pool? And I'm like, I've heard that story from Kevin Smith, that he never takes his shirt off when he's swimming. So I'm like, is this kid supposed to be Kevin Smith? And then all the way through, I was like, maybe not, but it doesn't really line up properly, but it is supposed to be him, right?
It does line up perfectly. What do you mean?
It lined up more as it went on, I thought. Like, there was parts where I was like, did Kevin Smith ride on a bike around town? And then it was like, I vaguely remember him talking about how he loved his bike. So there's a lot of these little things in there to show. And then, spoilers, let me say spoilers. We haven't really spoiled anything about this movie. But that end scene where they're talking on the bench and it kind of ties everything together.
Yeah.
That put a lump in my throat.
Aw.
You know what I'm saying?
Because of your love of Kevin Smith?
Yeah. I mean, it's like a circle, like a big circle.
Absolutely.
And it's like, oh, hold on a second. This actually fits into this viewer's universe. All right. We've got Nicholas Cirillo as Bernie. He's like their cool friend.
He's not cool. He's a dick.
I say cool in quotation marks.
Yeah, he's the guy
thinks he's cool.
From Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You know, he's the wheeler dealer. He's got like the heavy accent. He's like the slick knobhead who thinks, yes. And although he's a good friend and everything, that character always rubs me like, ugh. But he did a good job. He did a good job of making me feel like, oh, this guy needs a punch in the face. And so guess what? He gets a punch in the face.
He definitely needed a punch in the face, but he wasn't hateable 100%.
No, he wasn't like horrible, or he was in their context of their friendship and what we do know about Kevin Smith and his friends that we've learned over the years, or maybe a very superficial version. They are like a rowdy, hard on each other kind of bunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the vibe you got from this guy.
Yeah, because when it was time for wrestling,
Yeah.
all bets were off in this movie. We've got Ken Jeong as Manager Mike. Again, I say, for me, a bit over the top, but I know that that's what that guy does.
Yeah.
I mean, everything I've seen him in, he's been kind of like that. A bit goofy. And I don't know what I've seen him in, to be fair. But we have definitely seen him in something, right? What have we seen him in?
I don't know.
Stuff like The Fall Guy, maybe? Or something like those kind of...
I don't think so, but I don't know. I mean, he's a comedian, so you've probably just seen him.
Crazy Rich Asians, I think he might have been in.
Are you just saying that because he's...
No, I just think he might have been in that because there was
I don't think he was.
Asian comedians in that.
Right, I don't think he was, but you'd have to double check.
Over the top for me, didn't like it that much.
I didn't mind him.
I mean, do you like his humor?
In this context of a dickhead guy who's running a theater and likes to hold sort of like some sort of cachet over all the teenagers because he thinks he's a big man, yes, it was perfect.
Ken Jeong, what he was in, Crazy Rich Asians, and all of the Hangover movies.
I haven't seen any of the Hangover movies.
I have never seen the Hangover movies.
Me either.
You haven't? How the hell we totally avoided them? I do not know.
I don't know.
We did somehow. And now it's too late. You can't go back.
I can't go back, and I'm not interested. So I'm good. I'm good.
Genesis Rodriguez plays Hot Usher. That's her name.
Yeah, I liked her. I was thinking he would pull, because she ends up talking to the young Kevin Smith character, forget his name, even though this David something, about becoming a filmmaker and that she's going to go be a filmmaker, and she admires this one particular female filmmaker at the time. And I thought, oh, are we going to give this lady a name where she becomes a future known filmmaker?
That's what I was thinking.
Do you know?
Too.
I really thought that, but they didn't do that.
I did like the scene of her talking to him at the bottom of the stairs.
Absolutely. It was really good.
Justin Long plays Stank. It's too goofy.
Too goofy.
I understand Justin Long and, Tusk, and Kevin loves him, but it was a bit too goofy.
It was a bit much.
That's the kind of thing I would remove. That silly, stupid teeth that he's got in, dribbling. I don't even understand that character.
Well, he's called Stank.
Yeah, exactly. And Jennifer Swalbach and Harley Smith as the nuns. In the trailer.
That's his wife and his daughter, just in case you don't know.
And his daughter was supposed to be the lady who he was pursuing in this movie, but she refused that, apparently. I was just reading. I
mean, refuse is a strong word. I'm sure she considered it very strongly, but then chose not to do it.
Well, that's how she put it to him. That it was.
Yeah.
She didn't want to be that. Directed by Mr. Kevin Smith. He directed a lot of films. Clerks, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, etc., etc. Tons of them. So what do you think of Kevin Smith directing?
I think it's exactly what it is.
He's done everything here too, editing, directing.
Yeah, and it is him. And so I appreciate that. I get it. He's the master of his Skewniverse, and I don't know that other people would go, oh, that's a Kevin Smith movie. But when we've seen enough of them, it screams Kevin Smith.
Yeah, we wouldn't need to have been told.
No.
We'd have figured it out fairly quickly, I think. Well, we would by the cameo of people.
Yes.
When you're like, oh, look, there's Jason Lee. Like randomly, like people in this movie. There's a lot of his people in this movie, right? It also said he is in this movie on the credits. Did you notice?
Mm-mm.
It said Kevin Smith as Quiet Robert.
Mm.
But I didn't notice him anywhere, did you?
Quiet Robert? You mean like Silent Bob?
Exactly. But I didn't see Silent Bob anywhere, unless it was very in the theater when they were watching the movies or something.
Oh, might have been.
Yeah. So, yeah, Kevin Smith does his thing. It's his thing. The thing I was thinking earlier was, if we watched this movie today, and it wasn't anything to do with Kevin Smith, it was this exact movie, but made by somebody else, would you like it as much? Or does Kevin Smith bring a lot to it?
You mean knowing that it's Kevin Smith? Like it wouldn't have changed.
Right. If this didn't have the Kevin Smith name, it was made by somebody else.
But it's exactly the same. So we're not changing it. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question.
Would you be like, oh, this is great? Or would you be, is it the Kevin Smith thing that brings it?
It brings some of it.
I think so too. You feel connected in some way.
Yes, somehow.
Even though you're not.
You mean Kevin's not our dear friend because we've been watching his movies and watching all of his monologues on stage for the last 25 years?
It feels like he is.
I feel so rejected.
Yeah. One thing I do have a Kevin Smith memorabilia downstairs is he drew, he wrote the Spider-Man comics, like a series of Spider-Man comics. And I've got the whole set signed by him.
Yep.
I'm very pleased with that. So that's my connection to Kevin Smith. All right, so IMDB reviews, what are those?
Those are reviews on the little website, imdb.com, where you find 1-star reviews of people kind of complaining about movies. And if we like the movie, you make fun of them. If we dislike the movie, you agree with them.
That is correct.
I know. I've been here 800 and some times. I know the score.
How many times?
800 and some. 864. This is 865. Yeah. I know what's going on.
Yeah, it is.
Although you haven't done the IMDb reviews the whole time, so
I have not.
A few hundred.
There are no 1-star reviews of this.
Woo!
Let's try 2 stars. Okay, there's 1 2-star review.
Right.
There are not many reviews of this movie, to be fair.
All right.
So we're just going to do this one. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Smith does it again. This is a 2-star review, remember?
Okay.
I was, at one time, a big fan of Kevin Smith. It was always amateurish, but that was part of the charm. Terrible editing and abysmal acting were often overcome by terrific writing and relatable characters. But somehow, Kevin has achieved the miraculous and confounding achievement of having the quality of writing consistently decline and the characters become ridiculous caricatures of people with no redeeming or interesting qualities. Worse yet, his directing skills have devolved into something that's far removed from directing as to be unrecognizable. I gave it 2 stars because there were a few minor chuckles and a couple of moments where the leads didn't overreact, and the movie was approaching watchable for at least a moment or two. A monumental waste of time. Steer clear. It's crap.
My goodness.
This guy had a lot to say. I mean,
how many stars can you get? 10?
Yeah, 10. This guy gave it 2.
2 out of 10 just for some chuckles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, they did write a long review, so fair enough. Thanks, Mr. Chuckles.
Yes.
Miss Chuckles, whatever you are.
So there are some extras on this disc. It's the making of, basically. There's also a commentary with Kevin Smith, which I'll definitely listen to. But the making of is about 25 minutes long. Pretty good. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it's just him talking and showing clips, but it was fine.
He does explain a lot, though.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought we were going to get to see the original girlfriend who this movie is kind of about. And he said she was there on the set. And I was like, oh, I want to see her. And then you don't see her. And then I went and, scoured the internet and also couldn't find her. I was like a weird stalker.
I was going to say, you trolling this lady?
Yeah. So, conclusion, let's give the Kevin Smith 4:30 movie a score.
Aye.
I am going to give it a 6 out of 10. I have to be realistic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm giving it an 8.
Right.
You know why? Because the experience of it is what matters to me. And it was a good movie watching day.
You don't have to explain it. If you liked it, you liked it.
I liked it.
And I liked it too.
Period.
Even a 6 still means I liked it. I didn't hate it. Just some of it.
That seems... I didn't hate it. That's a great...
All right, so thank you to Lionsgate. Next week, we are going to look at Francis Ford Coppola's Megapolis? Megapolis. I think that's right. It's a huge, big blockbuster movie, Cidtalk. It's not a Kevin Smith movie.
I'm all in.
Movie recommendations. I'm going to give you just a couple of Kevin Smith. My two favorite Kevin Smith movies. Chasing Amy's number 1. I have a Chasing Amy poster on the wall in my home theater.
You do.
And Clerks is number 2. They're his best works, in my opinion.
Controversial.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you recommendations from, I don't remember when. It's the 20th century, everyone. It's the 20th century we're going back to. Do you remember that? From 1900 to 1999? Do we all remember? We do.
I don't remember.
We remember at least, you and I remember at least almost half of it. Well, Mm-hmm. And there's no rhyme or reason here. It's just movies I've seen. So if you want to be like me and grow up all strong and wonderful and intelligent, then you'll watch every single movie that I have ever seen. And they include Mississippi Burning. Very dramatic. Body Heat, one of yours that you like, isn't it? Or is that that's the one with Catherine
O'Hara?
No. Not Catherine. She's from Romancing the Stone, her.
Oh, yes.
And William Hurt, maybe?
I can see the poster for Body Heat. I just can't pin what it is exactly.
Then we have Man Bites Dog, which is, I believe, a French movie.
That's insane.
It is, and it's black and white, and we just watched it because we were kind of on a kick there for a while of like watching every obscure movie that never hits mainstream ever.
Yeah.
And then The Grifters, which of course is just another one of those sort of like very of its time. I think that's a 90s movie.
Mm-hmm.
Who's in that? The guy from... You know who I'm talking about. Cusack, isn't he in that?
John Cusack.
I think he is. And then All the President's Men, which is from the 70s, actually.
Which I've not seen.
Robert Redford and...
It's the Watergate thing.
Correct.
This week I was saying, has anybody made a movie about the Watergate thing? I feel like I need to know more about it.
Do you think a movie is going to educate you?
I want to see it in a movie form. And then I was like, I looked it up. I was like, oh, All the President's Men. That obscure one.
I love that you think watching a movie is education.
No, I'll read a book also. But I did want to see this in
also may not tell you the whole story.
I did want to see this in a movie form. And I've never seen that movie. And it's one of, it's really highly regarded, isn't it?
Sure.
All right, Ascully stuff. This week I've been playing a new game on Steam called Neo Harbor Rescue. I told you last week that there's a demo to get, and now it's actually available.
Correct.
It's like the Trauma team from the old Wii game. It's like that. It isn't that. It's not part of that.
Okay, it is that, but it's not that. Okay, got it.
Half the game is a graphic novel, which is where you read a lot.
Okay.
And there's pictures. That's what a graphic novel is. Cidtalk.
It's a comic book. It's a comic book.
Yes.
It's a big, thick comic book.
So half of the game is that your characters are talking to each other and you're going through it, and then you're a harbor rescue squad. So you're at the harbor. You're like a ambulance rescue crew. Stuff happens in the town. You drive the vehicle out to it. You don't drive any vehicle. You just go there, and you appear there. And then you do little mini games to rescue the people in an accident. So it's like half of it's a story, half of it's doing these mini games. It feels a bit like a Nintendo game, like how Nintendo present things.
Okay.
So it's like a lot of very quick, like, a guy's broke his leg, fix his leg. And there's like a little mini game. You might have to like press the buttons in time with the thing, or, when you've got to like resuscitate a guy, you've got to press the button exactly when the hands are going down on his chest, kind of thing.
Okay.
So you do all that, and then the story unfolds as it goes through it. Now, what makes it interesting is after each chapter, you get more mini games. It's not just the same mini games all the time, and sometimes it throws one at you that you look at it. You only have a second to react, because if you're a medical person and they throw a person in front of you, you got to figure it out quick, haven't you?
True.
Because they might bleed to death or whatever. So it's basically like Trauma Team. If you've ever played that on the Wii, it's that, but on the PC, but with a story. I mean, Trauma Team also had a graphic novel type story.
Mm-hmm.
This one's just a bit more to it. Now, this one's not serious in any way. It's very cartoonish. The guy who drives the ambulance, here's how cartoonish it is a dolphin.
Okay.
It says at the beginning, this game is not based on real characters, like one of those disclaimers. And then at the bottom it says, look, the driver of the ambulance is a dolphin.
Right.
So don't take it seriously. It's silly. But if you like medical rescue games, it's one for you. It's on Steam. And I think it's only on Steam for now, but I think it'll come out on consoles later. Cidtalk, we had some listener feedback this week.
We did.
We got an email from a guy who wanted to talk about last week's show. And I said to him, I emailed him and said, do you mind if I read this out on the show? Because it's really good feedback. So here you go. If you listen to last week's show.
You're going to read the whole thing?
I'm going to read highlighted versions.
Okay.
Because this would take too much time of yours. All right. He says, hi. He's called David, by the way. He says, hi, I've been a listener of your podcast for probably a year now. I thought I'd finally give some feedback after listening to your Blink Twice review, which was last week's review. I'm a follower of the Filmcast podcast as well. So am I. I actually listen to the Filmcast. It's because of them Blink Twice was ever on my radar, and I made an effort to see it in the theatre. And it's because I normally watch new releases in theatres that your podcast is usually a couple of months behind on what I've seen. Exactly. We don't go to the theatres because we hate people.
Except for this.
But we like you, David.
Oh, gotta make it very clear.
Yeah. He says the trigger warning at the beginning I respected.
Now, wait a minute. Rewind, because during our podcast, we talked about how we're not sure what we think about trigger warnings. You aren't a big fan because you think it should just be, just let me watch it.
I'm ready for anything.
The rating and the trailer and the poster and then whatever information you get before the movie should be enough for you to decide, I don't want to see it or I do. The specifics of what's going to happen in the movie are part of trigger warnings.
Exactly.
So if an animal gets harmed or there's a sexual attack, they might put all of that in a trigger warning. That means if you're watching that trigger warning and you go, oh, I don't want to see a dog get hurt, I'm not watching this movie. That's what it's about. And you and I were kind of like on the fence, and I'm still thinking I don't want trigger warnings for myself. As long as they're skippable and I can move on, then I'm good.
And I don't want you showing it me just like, because then I'll read it. If it's on the box, I don't care, on the DVD box. But if it's on the screen before the movie, I can't avoid it, and then you've spoiled the movie for me.
Well, you can skip it.
Well, you can't skip it if it just appears, and then you're like, what's this? Oh, shit. And I've read it already.
True.
You know? You're forced to read it. Also, that trigger warning from last week, it stayed on the screen for over a minute. So there was I skipped past it.
You did, yeah.
So he says, the trigger warning at the beginning I respected, and it did make me feel prepared for what I would see in the film. It's honestly the only film I've ever seen with a rape trigger warning at the beginning. The guest on the Filmcast episode pointed out that there's a Blake Lively film called It Ends With Us that I haven't seen yet, but it should have a trigger warning, despite you're never triggered. It does trigger many not comfortable with domestic violence, as the film features Blake in a violent, abusive relationship. While Matt Smith this summer didn't reference Blink Twice, he did state he thinks it's nonsense and ruins the shock value in a film, especially a horror film with trigger warnings. I agree with that, and that's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
That if you're forced to look at something that says this movie is going to have violence.
Like if there's a big long, not just violence, it's going to specifically tell you so that you know, like it might be violence against a child or violence, war crimes or whatever. And again, if you've investigated the movie and you're the type who wants to know about it before, then there should be enough promotional information. By the time you're sitting in front of in the theater, or you're sitting at home and you've purchased the movie or rented it and you're making the effort to watch it, I feel like that's too late. Right. Unless in that moment you're like, oh, well, for the next 2.5 hours, we'll just pick another movie, whatever. Like, I guess you and I approach movie watching maybe a little bit different. We kind of plan for it. It's a thing. If we sat down and watched a movie in our movie theater and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, trigger warning, and one of us decide not to watch it, well, we got to pick another movie, all that, which no big deal. But I'm still not convinced about the trigger warnings.
He finishes with, I think film critic Leonard Maltin, is that right? Leonard Maltin? Is he the guy who was with Ebert?
I think so.
Yeah, one of them, at least. He said, remember, a review is only an opinion. It's why I try seeing a film before listening to everybody else's opinion on it, to understand where they're coming from, and sometimes agree or disagree with what they have to say. I'm surprised they liked or disliked a film when I could have thought the opposite. Exactly. You might think I'll give 10 out of 10 to Kevin Smith's The 4:30 movie, and then I give it a 6.
Right.
And then he says, keep doing what you're doing week to week. We all need the challenge of thinking for ourselves. David.
Right on, Dave.
So thanks, David, for the, I do get feedback occasionally. Sometimes it tells me to go boil my head, or
Oh, really?
they hate my opinion.
You need to give me these people's addresses. I'm not in the mood for that shit this week, so I'll take care of that.
But this one was very nice, and it made my week.
Very
I was
good.
like, this is actually a constructive email, not somebody saying,
Wow, wow, wow.
F off, or I hate your podcast.
Or like how stupid everything is.
I mean, you can hate my podcast, just don't listen to it. You're right.
Yeah, don't listen and then be like,
yeah,
here's every single thing that's wrong. And guess what? I'm going to keep listening so that I can tell you what's wrong the next time. When we watch YouTube, like we do, that's part of our evening ritual, and we just watch all the time. And people have given videos thumbs down. And then you read in the comments, people saying, you need to stop doing this. This thing you do annoys me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why are you still watching it?
Yeah, why are you even wasting your time? Or is that's the entertainment?
You have no value. You have no value unless you're picking on someone who already questions themselves so strongly that you're breaking them down even more to kowtow to you, some motherfucker out in the world deciding how everybody needs to be.
Do we need a trigger warning now on this?
Maybe. Yeah. She will say the F word.
Yes.
I think that should always be on our thing. It's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I think that now. I'm glad that person sent you feedback. That was very nice.
I am very nice. For dinner tonight, we're having Taco Bell. Very healthy. Very nice.
We've had a rough couple of weeks, and so food, I've made an effort. You've cooked food all the way through, and when I haven't been here, I haven't been that great about eating like quality or at all, really. So now we're going to focus on Taco Bell, which is
quality and great.
I had ramen noodles for lunch, and I'll have Taco Bell for supper.
So you're basically like 100% salt today. That's what you will be.
That's all right. I have low blood pressure, so we'll just pump it up there a little bit. Even through everything, my blood pressure, here's a little bonus thing for everyone. Even after my mother passed away last week, I decided, you know what? And she wasn't in the hospital and didn't need blood or anything, but I thought it's time for me to go donate blood. I enjoy the process of donating blood. And so I just went ahead and did it. And I thought this is also a good opportunity to get a free little checkup because they check your blood pressure, your heart rate, and your iron levels, which can tell you a lot. My blood pressure was low. It was in the low range. My heart rate was 70, which I think is pretty good for going to get even the activity of getting there and sitting there answering all the questions. You would think it would be higher. Plus it was a rough week. But no, and then my iron was fine. In one finger, it was a little tiny bit too high, and the other one, it was perfect. So donate blood every chance you get.
Sitting here doing this podcast, my heart is 70.
Oh, because you've got your I don't have my Garmin on, so I don't know. I should wear it more often.
You should. I wear it all the time, so I always know.
So next is my advice, right? It's not advice.
Mm-hmm.
My advice is non-advice. It's just random thoughts this time, so deal with it. Someone else in the history of humankind decided what you are supposed to eat for each meal. Mm-hmm. You know, donut for breakfast, savory for lunch, and something hefty and savory for supper. Like if someone says, do you want a donut for lunch? People will grimace and be like, ooh, you shouldn't have a donut. Who are you? Who are you listening to? Who do you know that someone else decided that a donut or a pancake or a plate of bacon and eggs and hash browns, someone else decided that fits in the breakfast niche, and that if you decide you're going to have it for supper, there's some sort of weird stigma about it? Think about it. It's just stupid.
There's only one correct breakfast. It's tea and toast.
Don't be one of those. And so that's that. And then also chocolate is not that great. I know that people fawn over it. And
that's not true.
See, you are brainwashed, my friend. It's fine. I mean, I particularly don't love it anymore because my taste buds went away when I had a virus a long time ago. No other comments.
I love chocolate.
I know you do, but it's not that great. It's not like life-changing or anything. It's just a thing in the world. And people be like, oh, chocolate. Oh, I love the chocolate. Why? Are you sure? Are you sure you love it? Or have you been told how much you love it, and then you attach that, just like we decided this movie was a little bit better because Kevin Smith made it. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Moving on. Also, Here's another one. It's a little bit more deeper, but grief is real. It comes as a package deal in your mind. It's going to be there. It will not go away. It will not dissipate. It will not dissolve. It will not diffuse. It won't do anything because you want to ignore it. It will never go away until you feel it. That is my psychology 101 for you right there. It will not. You can pretend and you can stuff it in a box back in the back of your mind, but guess what? It never goes away. It's like matter, right?
Yeah.
It will not go away until you somehow can change the state of it. So right now it's a big fucking solid block of angst and hurt and sadness and everything you can cram into this hard diamond of grief. Over time, it can get shaved down and chopped up a little bit and shaped maybe, even if it stays with you forever. It will just never go away if you pretend it isn't there. It'll come out other ways, right? If you're grieving and you don't just like let it happen somehow, it will just affect you in other ways. It's sneaky like that. So that is all.
All right. Thank you, Cidtalk.
All right.
Ascully.com. That's the place you can go to get this podcast. You can also go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Those are the social media places you can find Ascully or Cidtalk. You can also go to Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, TikTok even. We have a short on there every week. Everywhere that podcasts are available, you'll find us. Email feedback to ascully@ascully.com. Do not email Cidtalk because I deal with the feedback. And stay classy, Mr. Kevin Smith. And let's hope there's more movies to come.
Aye, aye. And I'm going to say, think for yourselves. Because if you're not doing it, someone's doing it for you.